Hard work, work.
Hard work, that's what they say.
Hard work, work.
Hard work, I earn my pay.
Hard work, work.
Hard work, do it every day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Snipes Castle, the U.S. Navy Sailors Podcast, where we bring to you different stories from shipmates for life. That's what I call them. It's not former shipmates, old shipmates. We shipmates for life because we friends for life. All right. Today, I got a special guest for you, but first, I want to put out a few notes for everybody. I got a phone call from a shipmate. I was actually in the store the other day, and Eric Kohlberg from the Fort Sherman gave me a call in the store. And Eric Kohlberg is in Italy right now, and he got out the Navy, but he was dating April on board the ship, and it was one of those relationships that everybody knew they was doing it, but they kept it really discreet, and it continued on until they got married. It didn't end at the fan room. All right. It continue on, and they're still married. They got kids, and she's a chief now, and she's on the Mount Whitney, USS Mount Whitney, which was just sent to the Eastern Med out there. They pulled the Mount Whitney from the pier because it doesn't usually get on the way, but it's out there as a command ship out there in the Eastern Med. And Eric Kohlberg is at home with the kids, stay-at-home dad. He doesn't even have a job. He just stays at home with the kids. So we're going to be interviewing him here shortly. In one of these weekends, we're going to interview him and get his perspective on how it is to be a stay-at-home dad, because usually the mom stays home, but his wife's a chief in the Navy, and he's a stay-at-home dad. So that should be a real interesting story. And the second note, next week's show, we're going to focus on suicide prevention in the Navy, and we're going to have a special almost like a memorial for our fallen shipmate, HT1 Michael Saulberg. Unfortunately, he lost his life to suicide, and we're going to bring on some shipmates, and we're going to talk about Saulberg and, almost when we found out, and, to the memorial, and people going to say some nice things about Saulberg because it was a real good shipmate. All right. So that's what's coming up for you on November 4th, Saturday on Snipes Castle. And now, well, I'm solo again. So my other shipmates, of course, life, they got stuff to do. So they out here, sitting here retired, taking my meds and talking with you. Oh, so thank you for joining us on Snipes Castle. But today we got a very special guest, a shipmate of ours that was on the Fort Sherman. She came to us as a DC-1, and I mean, shortly thereafter, she made DCC. And then, as you all know, when you make chief, you transfer off, and we get a new chief. And what a big mistake that was. We should have kept her and transferred that guy someplace else. That was a bad mistake right there. Oh my gosh. And we're going to talk about that. But without further ado, I'm going to bring in our guest, former Damage Control Chief, Surface Warfare, Breanna, Witherspoon, Garner. Welcome to the show there, Breanna.
These songs. That was funny, man. That's some funny shit. That relationship didn't just end in the fan room. That shit had me cracked up.
Yeah, most relationships, you come out the fan room, hey, it's a wrap.
Right, that's
but
it.
they've been going strong. They've been going strong for
I know,
a
right?
while. Yeah,
Hey.
so good for him. I can't wait to interview him. A stay-at-home dad. He don't even got a job over there.
Hey,
stay-at-home dad. Got to do what he got to do.
I'm telling you, these kids these days, they all the work. I don't know how. I look now and say, I don't know how the hell I did 2 kids.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Active duty on sea duty. I don't see how I did that shit. Like
That's-
right now,
it's hard.
it is very hard.
And
You
that's
know
what
what?
I'm
But
trying.
I have to give shout out to daycare, the CDC. That shit is what made it happen, because
Yeah,
they took
yeah.
care of your kids all day while you were
And
gone.
that's what I'm trying to highlight, man. Being in the military and having kids is rough.
Right.
And that's why we special.
Right.
That's why we
We
come
different.
you
Yeah, we different.
and civilians,
Right.
different.
Way different.
All right. But I want to see if you remember. Let me
No, you didn't,
let,
Daryl.
let me get it. I'm gonna see if you remember this right here.
Don't play that.
Come on.
Oh my goodness, you had to send me this. I already see what it is. Oh my gosh. I can't hear it.
You can't hear? But that was
Yeah, that was back.
then back in the day
Oh yeah.
on the faux show.
I love that ship, man. I mean, I tell you that ship is some good memories and some bad memories, but you know, it made me who I was, and I always tell Nick, and when I refer to Nick, EMC Mason, you, man, it was like all of us, y'all held me down, man, on that ship. I don't know how I wouldn't have made it if it
You,
wasn't for the three of y'all in
we,
engineering.
we that was probably one of the tight knit groups right there. Just
Yeah.
tight knit, helped each other. We got
Yeah.
through a whole lot of difficult
Oh
times,
yeah.
and that's what it's all about. That team right there.
Oh,
That
it's
team right
different.
there. Because I was
It's
like,
different.
yeah, let me head on back to 3Gen and get some stuff out.
Right. Everybody knew, like when you, it's like when you start putting your hands up and you start talking
Yo,
on the side, and you would repeat yourself. You were like, okay, it's coming. Y'all stand the fuck back because Daryl about to.
you,
Daryl about to.
I was back there in 3Gen, and Coleman came back there to test some fuel. She's like, damn, you do come back here. I was
And
like, I wasn't joking.
Nick used to come up to you and be like, "Hey man, you need a hug, man." You was like, I'm just
Yeah. Oh man. Oh man. All
like you
right.
had the toughest job, man. Like you were like the you had to take care of everybody, and you had to make sure the ship was running and everybody, and so because of you though, and your ethics and who you are, Daryl, is why when you have top snipes like you, people would do whatever. They'd be like, because I know he's gonna take care of me. And that was the difference with you and any other good top snipe that anybody would have on a ship, is if you knew he was taking care of you, when we have to work late and when we have to do stuff and we needed to get it done, you'd be like, if senior said we got to do this, that's what the fuck we got to do. Like, let's just get it done for him, because we knew how much pressure you had on your shoulders.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I tried, but
And
when
you're
when we
smart.
when we
You
get
ain't
when we
you ain't
get
stupid
there,
either.
when we get there to that issue you had on the carrier, I want to bring
Yeah.
that back up. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm gonna start. Where are you from? Where you
So
guys are
I'm
from?
originally from Albany, Georgia. That's where I'm from. Small
Okay.
town.
Okay. Now, when did you get the idea that you wanted to join the Navy?
So I am the poster child for the Navy, like dead ass. Like I was a junior in high school, raised by my grandmother, never met my biological father. My mom was a single mom, 3 different kids, 3 different baby daddies on welfare. We have shit, food stamps, all that stuff, and we struggled. But my grandmother was a woman that came up in the civil rights era. She cleaned houses, was a hard worker, and she raised us because my
Mm-hmm.
mom had me when she was 15. And I remember my grandmother would always tell me, I would cry because like I couldn't go buy name brand clothes. We would go to
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Goodwill and
yeah,
stuff,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
shop.
Yeah.
And she was like, your circumstance you in right now, Bree, is not yours. It's the choices your mom chooses to make. So she was like, you can get out of here. The sky's the limit for you. you are like, as long as you graduate, do what you need to do, you can do whatever, be whatever you wanted to be. And so I started working whenever I could work to help my grandmother out with bills. And I remember sitting one day and the Navy commercial came on, Dead Ass Daryl came on, and I was like, I was like, what about me going into the Navy? I was like, the recruiters came to our school and taught us, grandma. I was like, and I could go to school, travel, I can get paid while I'm doing it, and I can help you out. And, I can do that. And she was like, that's what you want to do. And when I said that, the next day, the recruiters were at our school. I went, talked to the recruiter, joined the delayed entry program, did the weekends, learning my rank and recognition,
Yeah.
all that other stuff, and swore in for the first time while I was 15 and when I was 16. And then my mom had to sign for me because I was too young to swear in.
Yeah.
And I told my grandmother, wouldn't it be cool if I got stationed in like Japan somewhere and you come visit me and all this other stuff, and I can bring you here and join the military. Graduated high school May 19th, 2001. Left for boot camp June 18th, not a month. The recruiter told me, don't wait any long. When you get out, go, because most people change their mind.
Yeah.
So I packed all my stuff up, put it in storage. And I left for boot camp, man, in June 2001, June 18th, 2001. And when I was in boot camp, first set of orders they told me, they was like, go do your overseas screening. You're going to Japan.
Wow. Hey, when you was at MEPS, what
Jacksonville.
when you was at MEPS, what ratings were you offered?
So again, when I took my ASVAB, I took that crap just to get out of class. So really, I didn't score really high on my ASVAB.
Mm-hmm.
But most of my friends, they told me, I had some friends that joined the Navy that used to come back and talk to the school. And so they were telling me, don't pick a rate. Don't pick a rate, because once you pick that rate, it's hard. You can't get out of it. So go undesignated. Go either seaman or fireman, right? And so this girl told me to do seaman, and that's what I came in as a seaman.
You came in as a seaman, really?
Yes.
Wow.
I came in as a seaman. Yeah. And so when I came in, I was already E3 when I went to boot camp. So I had picked up E3.
You was already E3?
Yeah, because I did a delayed entry program. I got E2 out of the delayed entry program because I did it for a year and a half, right?
Yeah.
E2, and then I was RPOC in boot camp.
Damn.
I was recruit. So I got advanced to E3.
You was the RPOC? Wow.
I was calling, cussing motherfuckers out before I came to the ship there. When I tell you, but you know what? Like I said, man, I truly believe, like, my career was, my RDC was a Black female chief, CTC. And I'll never forget her, man. I would cry sometimes, and she'd be like, wipe that gear drift off your face. She was like, you joined in the military. This is the man-dominated military. Don't fucking cry in front of these people. They want to see you. And she was like, and don't tell me you joined the military to fucking find a husband either. I was like, no. So when I tell you, that lady had me so tight there, when I wanted to cry, I couldn't damn cry. I used to go in the bathroom in the stall in boot camp and try to cry. I'd be sitting there like, trying to cry because I was so mad. Or so sometimes, and she gave me one of the best advices too, because nobody liked me I was the RPOC. I was the RPOC. Nobody liked me. And I was like, they talking about me. They don't want, they would listen to me. They would respect me, but nobody liked me. So I would be sitting, some people would come up and talk, some girls, but she told me, she said, if your people like you or love you, you're not doing your job. She said, do you hear me complaining about anything you're doing? She was like, you get them lined up. They doing what they supposed to do. She said, the thing that you're going to learn is you can earn respect by learning your job, doing what you're supposed to do. And that's what you're doing. She's like, she said, I'm not finna pat you on your fucking back. But she was like, if I ain't complaining, you doing your job. She said, if people complaining, that means you doing your job. Yeah.
I want all y'all out there that listen to this, because that's wisdom right there. That's old.
That's that old wisdom, man. And she told me.
There. Almost.
And I almost got busted down in boot camp too. Dude wrote me a letter in boot camp. He wrote me a letter. You know, like all you need is the ship's company's number, and they can see your name. And you know, the address is the same for everybody in boot camp. This shit may relate to a lot of people, but that's your telephone number in boot camp, your last name and your ship's number. What ship you on, what. And I was in service week, and this dude wrote me a letter talking about, hey, after boot camp, can we like hang out and do something? And his RDC, my RDC got it, and they called him, call his RDC up, and she was like, you know, that whole thing, you trying to find a husband. She was like, did you fucking, you trying to find a fucking husband? They brought me in, and I was like, I'm finna tell you. I was like, I didn't tell that dude to call me. I didn't tell him to write me. I was like, and I wrote him back and said, do not write me. I was like, do not write me. Like, because Daryl, I'm gonna tell you, the thing about me with my career, anybody can tell you this, is because where I came from, I wasn't gonna let nobody fucking knock me off of my shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I definitely wasn't about to lose, you know, what I worked hard for. And that was just that mentality that I had. I didn't want to, I knew what it felt like to be hungry, eating pork and beans for dinner.
Oh man.
I didn't want to go back to that shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you focus on that goal, to the end goal.
Right.
That's for real.
Yeah.
But so you came in as a seaman. That's interesting.
Yeah. I was driving the ship, qualified, everything.
Okay, went there. So you went to Japan and USS O'Brien.
ODB.
You was a
they call it
DD.
ODB.
What I always understand, I always ask, hey, what ship you been on? If they say DD or CG, I know you're a hard motherfucker.
Okay.
DD. So you got on there.
Wasty boilers, all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Shit. Wasty boilers. Yeah. That's
Silk
the old.
blow,
That's the
silk
old.
blow,
Yeah.
Silk blows. Request to do silk blow down and
Yeah.
tell that nigga, yeah, man. That's my shit.
So you was a seaman.
I was a seaman.
In deck department.
Driving
the ship. So when did you finally said, hey, that's what I want to do?
So when I got to the ship, I was standing watch outside, petty officer watch, right? Cold as shit, wintertime. I got there in November doing 9/11 too. I flew out to my ship in the Gulf. We were doing attacks for 9/11. So when I got there, we were launching missiles and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was scared as shit. I was like, oh my. And we would pull into these ports, and I remember standing watching this cold as shit out there with them whites on.
Yeah.
And this engineer, the dude come up with a clipboard with his coveralls on. I'm undesignated. I'm waiting to strike or pick a rate. And he got a clipboard, and he got on his skull cap, and I'm like, what is he? And they was like, oh, because I had been to all the rates. I went up to the OSs, watching them fall asleep on watch, getting on trouble on the console up in the pilot house. They sleep behind me, going to mass right and left. They trying to get me out. Like, hell no. In a dark room and it's cold, I know I'm going to sleep.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to sleep. The SKs tried to get me. I was like, no, I don't know. CSs, everybody. So I saw the guy come up with a clipboard. I said, what does he do? And they was like, oh, he an engineer. That's sound security. And I was like, they don't stand watch outside. And they was like, no. They stand watch downside the pit. I was like, I'm going to be an engineer because I don't like being out here in this cold, carrying this weapon and being out here in these whites. That shit was crazy trying to keep them things clean. It drove me crazy.
Oh man, that's funny.
So that's when I decided to be an engineer. And what happened is down in my berth, and there was 2 female DC-2s that was on my ship. And they were like, man, you can fucking talk. You should be a DC because you can train. And I joined the flying squad. And from that on, man, I took the DC exam the first time and made DC-3.
And that's why I was saying, I was like, to be a DC man, you have to know how to train. You have to know how to motivate.
Yep.
And I got a video of you when you was out there training. That's what I was looking for. But yeah, you got to know how to speak and motivate. And that person, that was right. They was right. To be a DC man. So you was on the O'Brien for like 3-4 years.
Yeah. So what happened is the OB, they told us they was decommissioning the ship.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
right.
And
Okay.
and I also when I came in, D. Siemens didn't stand watching the engineering space too, Daryl.
You're right. You're right. And that's what I said on my one of my previous podcasts. I said the DC men, they didn't stand watch.
No. So if you were on Flying Squad if you was on Flying Squad and you was on the at sea fire party and the flight crew, you didn't stand watch. But I was staying in sound security, but I wasn't on flight quarters, but I was Flying Squad. And I stood sound security watch. And I remember going up to my MPA. And what I used to do is I used to go down when I was on watch. I would do my rounds quick, and I would go down to main one and watch them take apart the engines, watch them doing SIP blows, changing out the coalescers.
Yeah.
And I would be sitting there doing it with them. I was like, oh, I want to learn. And I was telling the MPA, I was like, I'm standing in sound security on this equipment that I don't even know what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm going down to these spaces and I don't know what it is. And I told him I want to know. And he was like, whatever, he was like, you full of shit, whatever. So he would come down and I'd be in watch and I'd be in the engine room, in the engine, helping them take it apart and doing stuff. And I would get in trouble. He was like, fucking sound security, you supposed to be roving. Get your ass out of the engine space. And I'd be like, but I want to do this. So he was like, all right. So every night is this old guy, Warrant Officer Hagen. I never forget him. I still talk to him. We friends on Facebook. This dude was so old and salty. He would be the type where he would go up to pipes and put his fingers on and lick it. And he'd be like, okay, that's Freon. That's a leak.
Yeah.
He was one of them them type of MPAs, right? And every night when I stood sound security, he would give me a question about the engine, right? To see if I was going to go back and find out. So I would go to this is the time where we had the tech manual library.
Yeah.
But we only had the one computer where you go in there.
Yeah.
And I would go in there and I'd be reading, breaking down the engines, and I would come back and I would tell him what part it is. And he was like, we taking you off of sound security and putting you in main one. So he put me in the engine room and they trusted me, and I moved all the way up to ERM on my ship, man. And the DCs were mad because when I did that, they were like, if you ain't on flight quarters, you got to stand watching the space. So our ship started making DC stand watching the space. And
For a long time, that's how it was. DC didn't stand watch. No. I was like, they only stood, usually the firemen stood sound security, and then everybody else was off the watch bill.
Yeah.
But man, that brought back memories.
And you know what else too, Daryl, is I got capped to second class.
Wait, so on the O'Brien,
I got
on the O'Brien, you struck DC.
Yep, made DC3, and then I got capped, and I got capped to second.
Got capped to second on the O'Brien
in the first year, only a year.
God damn.
When I tell you I was
well, moving, I mean, you's probably the only ERM thing DC man that actually went out his rate, or her rate, and did something out there. So I mean, they can really compete with you. And
I was the drilling sound security, and then I turned to drilling watch standing too. So when
that was rare. That was rare back. That was rare.
And a female. Female that knew her shit. And so you couldn't tell me, like, when it came to that PMS and stuff, I've ran that shit to a T. And so when the ATG came on board, I remember I was doing a drill, and the admiral came on board, and I was doing a drill or something, and they made a whole video for it on my ship. It was like, you know how you simulate when you doing AFFF or PKP, I run down into space, and the admiral's there, and I would come down, and this is something that I had started doing that they wanted everybody in the ship to do, is I came down, I'd be like, PKP, boom, 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 and they was like, what the fuck did you just say? And I was like, how do you simulate PKP? I was like, boom, boom, boom. It's like a boom. So I'd be like, boom, boom, boom. So when I tell you the CO, the admiral, told my captain, they made me do a video for it on the ship, and they passed it around to other commands in Japan. ATG wanted it done like that for us to simulate how we're extinguishing stuff. And I was doing my ESWAS. I hadn't had my ESWAS pen either, Daryl. I had just finished my Common Core, and we were standing at a captain's call, and I remember my captain. We were all standing there, and I'm in my like dirty coveralls, and I would always be the one to ask questions. Like people would pass me notes saying, "Spoon, ask this question," because I wasn't scared. I'm like, what the fuck? Because my recruiter told me nobody can put their hands on you. The only thing they're gonna ever tell you is no or yes, or they're gonna tell you to shut the hell up, right? So don't be afraid to ask nothing. Don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to do anything, you know?
Yeah.
And so I would always ask questions. So we're standing at captain's call one day, and I used to always have to have midshipmen with me when they came on board. Like midshipmen, I would get them that were following me. And so I'm standing there, and they were doing the people advancement thing or whatever. And I was sitting there, and I was like, oh, I'm standing in line. And then they were like, we got a surprise. CO wants to do something special today. And they were like, and we want DC2 Witherspoon to come up here. And I was like I had just taken the exam for DC2 and I didn't make it. And I think it was like a little bit after that. I may have the timing wrong. It may not have been a year, maybe in a year and a half, but I was able to take the exam earlier because I had an EP on my eval, right? Yeah. So I didn't make it, and that shit crushed me because I was studying, I didn't pass the test. And I remember I was standing there, and he was like, DC2 Witherspoon, come forward. And I was like, what? I was like, what is happening? And they was like, oh shit, they finna cap Spoon. And the captain was like, I only get one of these. And the CMC, and he was like, I only get a couple of these so often. And I wanted to, he capped me and some other people that couldn't make rank. And I was like, saying to myself, like, I remember leaving from down there, going straight to my repair locker, closing the door and crying. Because I was like, why is this happening? Like,
wow.
Why is this happening? I'm new. And my CMC came down, found me. And he told me, he said, Spoon, he said, Witherspoon DC2, this is rare. He's like, I've never seen a captain cap a third class that didn't have that ESWAS pen. Anybody. He was like, so you know what the fuck you need to do, right? And I was like, get my ESWAS pen. And I tell you, not long. When he told me to do that, no longer than 4 months, I got that ESWAS pen quick. I went up with my homeboy. I did it because I was like, again, I just appreciated everything that was happening. And then, like I said, the chief mess always, they just took care of me, man. They just always, like, because I was in charge of Repair 5. So Repair 5 on the DD is right by, which is ironic, the mess line, the chief's mess, and the CO's landing.
Right
when the
there.
CO, where the COs come out. And when the thing about it is, I hate to say this, but these cats gave me Repair 5 because nobody wanted Repair 5.
Nobody want Repair 5. Nobody want Repair 5.
Repair 5. So they only would set me up for success. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
And so that's
the only way. The only way I have to go is up from here.
Right.
Just make sure
and
it's
so,
straight.
and because I had Repair 5, 4-day triple F, the CO would always see me in my repair locker. Chief Smith always saw me giving training in the repair locker. Always saw me cleaning, doing maintenance. It's like I tell people all the time, it's not playing a game, but it's a fucking game. All you gotta do is
you just play the game. Play the game. That's why I used to tell on the last episode, I used to, when I was in second class, I was shit on a kid in my first class, Newman. I used to give him a hard time. He's a new first class because my old first class, I used to give him a hard time. And one of the guys told me, man, Newman told everybody that, they think you working when you sleeping.
Right.
It's a game. It's a game. Okay, I'm gonna show them everything and shoot. Even when I'm in my rack, they gonna think I'm working.
Exactly.
But you go ahead.
Yeah, and that was how it was. I was just working. I was just doing me, and I was so bored. A lot of times, I would just find shit to do. So, like, I give you an example. I learned the AFFF system for that whole ship. I knew what every valve was because when I was bored there, I would get the EOS.
And a lot of people don't know. A lot of people didn't know that system.
Right.
Only a few people I know knew that system when they put it in there.
Yeah. And so I would walk the systems go walk the valve, use the EOS and write it down and go in spaces. I'd be like, oh shit, this is back here. And that's how I learned the ship. I learned everything about everything. And it was the same way for me when I was on watch in the main spaces. When I was bored, I would just go underneath the engines and I'm like, shit, what's under here? Oh, damn, it's pipes and stuff. And that's how I learned my space.
Yeah.
So when I went in, and I'll tell you, it felt so good anytime when I came on watching like the MPA with this guy being so old and other people coming in saying, who's my ERM tonight? We got water wash. Oh, Spoon. Oh, okay, cool. You know, they like, you know, to where it's like, you know, when you got that motherfucker that don't know that shit, they be like, hey, I'm gonna have to go down in the space and watch them do this.
So the O'Brien decoms
in
and
San
you go
Diego.
to in San Diego and you go to the Fitzgerald.
Yep, and
just
crew swap. We do a crew swap. And what we do is half of the crew that wants to stay. So they asked who wanted to stay in Japan. I wanted to stay.
Oh, okay.
And so I wanted to stay. And what the max was is you could do. I was only supposed to be there for 3 years, and so I extended for 2 years. So 5 years total. And I did a crew swap. We did this whole ceremony in San Diego. We was in San Diego for about 6 months, I believe. It was a while. And we did a crew swap, learned, you know, met the crew, and then I took over as the works in the soup for so I left the O'Brien as a works in the soup, and then when I got to the Fitzgerald, they wanted to offer me works in the soup, but it was an older DC2 there that he wanted to be the works in the soup for ERO4, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right. He was like, I've been in longer. I'm older than her. I need to be ERO4. I was like, all right, take it. You know, you take it. I'm going to take ER9. ER9 program was horrible on that ship. And so we lost, flipped that shit around. You know, that dude was asking that DC1. I don't like, my guys were going home. Like, we were getting shit done going home for the day. You know what I mean? In San Diego. The dude started complaining to my first class, talking about, I want ERO9. I don't want ERO4. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, now it's good. Oh, now you want to jump ship now.
Right. Now, because we doing, I'm like, that shit ain't happening because it's ERO9. It's happening because I'm running that shit. You know what I mean?
How was the Fitzgerald overall? DDG
so
62?
Fitzgerald was amazing. I mean, the thing about the Fitzgerald was it was a culture shock for everybody leaving San Diego going to 5th to 7th Fleet because 7th Fleet, man, we be out. You know, we go like on our evals, we'll have like underway 200, 300 something days out of the year because we would go out 3 months, come back in for 2 weeks, go back out 3 months, come back in. You know, we were always going. We didn't do long deployments at that time. You know, now they doing deployments over in Japan and stuff. Well, we didn't do deployments. Yeah. And so it was just a shift over from, you know, doing San Diego, you know, it's a little laid back to now you got 7th Fleet coming in expecting the ship all the time, every time. You know, it was different.
So you was on the Fitzgerald for like two years because you extended for 2 years,
and then
right?
and then I got pregnant.
Okay.
So that's what happened.
Got pregnant.
And then I got pregnant.
What was C nails? You went to a shore duty, of course.
I did. And so what happened is when I was an E5 still. I wasn't up for first yet, but I was E5. I actually was getting ready to leave anyway. Like I left 6 months earlier than what I was supposed to leave from my pregnancy tour. Yeah. But what happened is I got orders for my pregnancy tour, and they was finna send me to San Diego. And I called my detailer as an E5, and I told him, I said, look, I'm from Georgia. Like my baby dad at the time, which nobody knew, it was a secret. It was one of those like secret boat relationships too. But he had left the ship already. But when I got my orders, I was like, don't send me to San Diego. They sent everybody in Japan to get pregnant in San Diego to work at the base, to clean the base, you know,
Yeah.
And so I called my detailer and I said, look, I'm an E5. I got my ESWAS pen. I'm trying to make rank. I want to make chief one day. You know, I was like, send me to I want to go to Marmac or to like fire school or somewhere. And they were like, but you can't work in the DC shop. I said, it doesn't matter. I was like, from what I was told, see, I had good mentors. I had people chiefs and people that would come talk to me, first classes, that would tell me what to do, and when I
Yeah,
found I
yeah.
was pregnant, I was upset because I thought that was it. I thought it was over for me. But they told me, you need to go to a command that is engineering in your rate, right? So my recruiter, they changed my orders, man, and they sent me to Norfolk to Marmac. And what I did is, even though I was at Marmac working in the office, I worked for this guy, Mr. Turner, civilian guy. And even though I worked there, I still could go to the maintenance facility shop,
Yeah.
the DC shop, the
Yeah.
HT shop, the pipe shop, and I would go there and watch them do stuff. So I stay,
Yeah.
fresh in my mind. And that's why I went to Marmac. And then when I was at Marmac, I went to the fire school.
Okay. All right. So you was at the fire school.
Yeah. And I got a funny story about
you
that.
got something on that you was at NavMed Portsmouth. What, you was stationed there for a little while, or what's
Yeah,
that?
so that was a pregnancy tour too. That was for my second child. That was later on, but that was later on after CNE. So, and the funny story too about the fire school, Daryl, and this is for anybody that's doing, I don't know how it is now, but when the recruiters would come into Norfolk and they was like, all the recruiters are here. So if you up for orders, you need to go talk to them. And I remember sitting in line, I was sitting in a chair for the DC recruiter and detailer, and the guy was sitting in front of me, and they had one billet left for a DC2 at the fire school. And the guy was like, I'll take that. And I was like, damn. And the detailer looked at him. He said, you ain't got your ESWAS pen. And he was like, nah. He was like, you can't go there. He was like, you gotta have your ESWAS pen. So Daryl, when I tell you, I was sitting behind that dude like, ooh, shit. I was like, give me them damn orders.
Wow.
I remember walking up and sitting in the chair, unzipping my jacket, bam, down for CNE.
See that pen come in handy.
It does, man. I'm telling you.
Back in the day, because used back in the day when really it was, a lot of people didn't have it. A lot of people didn't have the ESWAS pen. Now it's like, mandatory. But I mean, you could separate the the go-getters from, oh damn, you first class without an ESWAS pen. Okay. Right. Like me.
Right.
Yeah,
that was the thing. And that was one of those, I mean, when I first got there, when I had my mentor, because when I came to the ship too, they assigned you a mentor, somebody that took you around and took you over the ship and stuff. And that's what they told me. They said, you got to get your ESWAS. No matter where you go, whatever command you get, whatever the command offers. Like when I was at CNE at the fire school, they said, you got to get your MTS. I was like, I got to get that MTS.
That's the
master training specialist.
Master training specialist.
So I got my MTS. And when I tell you, and the story behind that is, so my daughter was a baby when I was at CNE. My grandmother was living with me, helping me take care of her because me and my baby father wasn't together. But and it was hard because fire school, I had to be there at 5. And this was the time when we were starting to do IAs, where they were sending people to do IAs. Shore duty, they select you. And so I was new there. And how it worked is they'd be like, oh, they doing the IA picking. And so you got to go. They're going to pick you, probably go. And I got selected to do an IA. I was freaking out. I was like, I don't want to leave my daughter.
Where was you going?
Go out. They were going to send me to Guantanamo Bay to the prison. Yeah,
the prison. Yeah. That wasn't so bad. But
no, it wasn't so bad.
You could be separated from your daughter for
right.
a while.
Yeah. And my baby, she was a baby, right? And that wasn't when the Navy would give you time. So she was a baby. And I remember I was getting my screening, getting all that stuff done. And this DC1 there, his name was DC1 Washington, my homeboy for life. He went up to the CMC. He was like, hey, I want to go. I'll take her spot. I want to go. Wow. Took my spot. And so when he did that, the CMC, because they knew my background and my story and stuff, because, I'm very transparent like I was with you guys.
Yeah.
And they knew. So he told me, you know what you got to do, DC2. He was like, you got to make yourself undispensable. Like they can't send you nowhere.
Yeah.
So he was like, you need to get your MTS. You need to get it qualified as many courses as possible, so they can't let you go ever again. And so
Yeah.
because of that guy took my spot. I got my MTS within like a year being at that command. I became like qualified. When I left CNE, I was the only instructor ever qualified in all courses there on fire side and water damage side. I became the field safety chief. I picked up first there. I got sailor of the year, got to meet the McPun, went up to DC. I mean, there was so much stuff. I hustled. So when that guy came back from that thing that
Yeah.
I showed him gratitude. And when I got my first comm at that command, I told him, I said, I was telling him, and if he ever sees this, I told him DC1 Washington, like all this stuff that I have right now, it wouldn't be possible if he didn't take my IA. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Funny. That's a
he gave me
workout.
that driving force to qualify to get stuff done. And then the other thing too is we stood watch out there. I mean, shit is done and now, but we had to stay an overnight watch, and I would bring my daughter out there, and we would put the guys, people would know, and we would hide her in the because I didn't have overnight daycare, and this is
Yeah.
and so I would put her in the locker room, and when the Chiefs come do their rounds, and then we would put it in, and we had a lounge where we would put the chairs together, make it
Hmm.
like a big playpen. And
Yeah.
then what would end up happening is I would leave before anybody would come to the compound, drop her off at. So that's why I said big shout out to CDC, because they open up at 5, and I would drop her off at CDC at 5. And
Yeah.
even all the other instructors, some of the females out there, they would help me. They would take her for the night and stuff like that. So I'm telling you, like, when everything that I have, I already was in that mentality that I didn't do it myself. It's because I had people that helped me, people that guided me, and I followed anybody that was going to tell me good advice on what I needed to do. That's what I was going to do.
Yeah. Hey, for the people that don't know, what is CDC? What does
So
that stand
CDC
for?
is Child Development Center. And so the CDC is where you have civilians that take care of the kids while you're at work. So they're open normally from 5 in the morning to 6. And and that was the other thing too. When I went to the McPun conference where they had a meeting in DC. This is the thing I was telling you I did there. And I remember sitting in there, and all is a panel of all the McPuns from all the different fleets
Yeah.
on it in DC on stage, and they had questions. So my question that I had to them was, I told them, I'm a single mom. Why don't we have daycare that's overnight? And the CMC for the McPun for, I guess, for that's over like MWR, CDCs, all that stuff. His guy wrote it down, and you not know, Daryl, they brought out not too long of that. They made now the CDC is overnight, but you have to work overnight shifts now.
Yeah. Wow. That's getting it done right there. That one question
One question.
changed an area, a fleet. Basically,
Right.
that one question
Right.
right there.
And it
So
may
that's
not have been
important.
just me. It may not have been just me asking. They probably
Yeah.
have heard that from a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I just asked that question, and I remember it
That's
coming
a
out.
good
And
question.
it was like, why don't we have overnight CDC for people that have duty? Because what had happened is there was a time in Norfolk where a girl had left her baby in the car,
I know. Yeah, I
and the
know.
baby
Yeah, I
died.
heard about that story. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And that was an awesome question to get put out there, and they
Yeah.
actually executing that
Right.
plan
They
to get
executed.
care
Yeah.
of the people,
Right.
who need that. I mean, because I've been on the ship multiple times. Well, why such and such ain't here for duty? She got to go take care of her kid.
Right.
you know.
Right.
But
Right.
that was good. So you was at the fire school.
Mm-hmm.
You made first class at the fire school.
Yep.
Made
Got
first
pregnant
class.
again.
Got pregnant again. Okay. Good. Good. Bree. But once you've completed that, all right.
That's when I went to.
When did your order? When did you choose Fort Sherman as your next command?
So what happened is when I left, I was getting ready to leave the fire school again. I got orders to go to push boots. They wanted
Oh,
me to go
okay.
to Great Lakes to push boots.
Okay.
I'm gonna be honest. I did not want to go to Great Lakes. I did not want to go because I
Nobody
had
want to
just
go to
bought a
Great
house.
Lakes.
I had just bought a house, Daryl, in
Yeah.
Virginia, and I had my grandmother and my daughter with me. And again, I was like, I wasn't prepared for that, and I was just like, so, I found out I was pregnant, and I was getting ready to. I had figured out what I was gonna do. I was gonna leave my kids and go push boots. And I told him, I said, I talked to my sponsor up there, and I said, hey, I just found out I'm pregnant, but I'm still gonna come. I'm not gonna tell them because I don't want to mess up my. Because everybody was telling me pushing boots was like that was gonna be and I did want to go. I mean, I actually did want to go. I just didn't want to go because of my situation with my house and the kids.
Yeah.
But then I was like, no, I can do this. And then when I found I was pregnant, I was gonna go and kind of hide it. But the girl told me, don't do that. You'll get in more trouble if you come up here and don't tell them this. So I went to. That's when I went back. I went to Naval Portsmouth
Yeah.
Hospital.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And when I left, when I went there again, I talked to the CMC. I checked in, and I was like, "Man, I'm in DC. I'm a first class. I'm up for chief. I already went up once, and I didn't make it." I was like, "I do not want to." I'm like, "How am I gonna make chief from here?" And he told me, he said, "Look, I'm gonna tell you." He said, "You're here on limb-due." He said, "Most of everybody that come here on limb-due, they don't do shit. They just come in. They do nothing."
Yeah.
So what I end up doing, Daryl, I was there, and I know that sounds kind of cliche, but I became an LPO of a clinic, of a department, the training department for for like the what is it? What is it called? Oh my God, NDOC division. So I was
Yeah.
in charge of everybody coming when they first came to the command. I was a LPO there. I also worked in guest relations as well. So I did a lot of TRICARE, and that's when I learned the the I want to say the office part of the Navy. Like I
Yeah.
learned about memos for the records, evals,
Mm-hmm.
the instructions, the manuals, all that stuff. I learned all those things. And when I walked out of that command, I was an LPO. And my senior chief came to me and he said, I was sitting in the board for the first classes, and he said, I shouldn't tell you this. He said, but he was like, you got in the top 10. And he's like, everybody thought you was an HM1. He said they were like, that's a DC one. And they were like, and she here on Limb Due. And she was a part of the first class association. I was part of the anything I could
Yeah.
do.
They
I just
think you
did
a
it.
dang HM1. That's
I was an
crazy. That's
HM1.
crazy.
They thought I was an HM1. My senior said, you got ranked in the top, so you got an EP. He was like, he came back. He said, I was so fucking proud of you. He was like, I was like, that's my first class. He was like, yeah, he was like, she's a fucking DC one. And he was like, and she on Limb Due. And they was like,
Yeah, because ain't nothing but a bunch of HM1s there.
right.
Yeah,
And
and you a
so
DC one.
while I was there, I told my senior chief, I said, senior, I'm going back to sea duty. I need to go to 3M school or something to do something. I said, because I haven't been in 3M since I was on shore duty, fire
Yeah,
school,
yeah.
and then here.
Mhm.
So I said, I need to go to 3M. So he let me sign up to go to 3M school. And I had signed up for all like engineering classes that I can do
Yeah.
before I got orders.
Mhm.
And what happened is they didn't have a spot for me at 3M school, works in a suit. They had a slot for me. They were like, we could put you in at 3MC school.
3MC school. I remember seeing that on
Right.
your thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got 3MC school, and I'm sitting in there. And at that time on the Fort Sherman, the 3MC for y'all ship, he was in class with me. He said, are you my replacement? It was like, because I told him, because I think I had got orders after that not too long, and I wasn't leaving till later, and I was able to go to school. And he was like, you my replacement? I was like, mm-mm. He was like, so why are you here? I was like, because I need to learn about scared and everything else. I know that shit done changed, and I was just
Yeah.
sitting in there, and I passed the class. And so did not realize that was a freaking NEC,
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
I'm
yeah. That's
like,
an
damn,
NEC. I mean, they can make you, a
3M.
3MC for a command.
Come on, Daryl. Come on now. Look, I was like, damn, I didn't even think about it. I didn't even think about it like that. Oh shit. Hold on. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was like, I didn't even think about it like that. And he told me that, and I was like, oh crap. So, and then I got orders to the Fort Sherman. And so they sent me I had to go to CBRD school in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And then I came to the Fort Sherman. And I'm going to tell you, sorry. My computer, I thought I had charged up. It wasn't. Let me make sure it's charging. Okay, it's charging. But, and so when I got to the Fort Sherman, I remember I was up for chief.
Yeah.
And so I had already, and I remember Nick and E came up to me too, DC1. And it was like, you want us to look at your package? Not knowing that I had already sent my stuff in before I came to the ship.
Yeah.
Because I had did this like 3 times already, so I was like, I looked at making chief as if I didn't make it, that meant I wasn't ready. I didn't look at it like they ain't picking me. And every time, Daryl, when I didn't make chief, I would learn something new and I'd be like, oh shit, yeah, I wasn't ready. No, I wasn't ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would always learn something new. And I'm like, damn. And so when I got to the ship, I remember when I was at Fort Leonard Wood, before I got there was the Master Chief, the DC Master Chief, that was like one of my biggest mentors there. Can't remember his name right now, but he sat down and looked at my record and he told me, he was like, you're not going to make chief. And I was like, why is that? He was like, because you don't have LPO at sea. And I was like, well, I got LPO at the hospital. He was like, yeah, but that's not at sea. And I said, well, I had LPO. I actually had LPO at sea on the Fitzgerald. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because our chief left and our first class had to move up and take his spot, and we all became LPO. So on our evals, they even put LPO, and I was just a second class. So I was like, okay, so I was one of those people where if somebody tell me something, I'm like, okay, I'll just wait and see. And I never forget, man, when I was sitting on the damn faux show, and I was like, when they called my name, I was just like, fuck. I can't believe this. And I'm going to tell you, when I came to the Fort Sherman and when that happened, I already felt alone because my daughter was just 1. So let me tell you, let me paint this picture too before we get to that situation. But I was already kind of suffering from postpartum, I think, because my daughter was just 1 when I left.
Yeah.
And so I was missing them, but I knew that I had to do what I had to do to support them,
Right.
But when I'm gonna tell you this story real quick about how the chief mess means to me. Like I said, everything in my life, in my career, it hasn't been a DCC besides a couple of them that I met when I was in school, not my like DCC on board my ship, except for one. There was this guy named Stacy, and I shouldn't call him, Stacy, I never forget him. He was my first DCC, but and he left soon after. But I remember standing sound security on my first ship on the O'Brien, and I was walking on the fantail, and I go out to the fantail, and I look, and it's dark, and there's lights flashing everywhere, and I'm like, oh shit! I close the door and run back to CCS, and I tell MPA, they doing something to somebody on the flight deck, and I was like, I need to report it. I don't know what's happening. He was like, oh no. Don't worry about that. He's like, if you stay in the Navy long enough, you'll know what's happening out there. And somebody came up to me and said, they doing chief initiation.
Oh.
So when I tell you, Daryl, over my years, when I watched the chief's ceremony, I was so like, oh, this is going to be me. My aspiration in my career was to become the first Black female McPun. That's what my goal was. And I remember watching every time I went to a ceremony, watching them. I'm like, one day that's gonna be me. One day it's gonna be me. But I always said I never wanted to make chief on sea duty. I was like, I don't want to be out at sea on sea duty. And do you remember what you told me? Do you remember where I was when they announced the chief's results?
Was he in the engineering log room?
We were actually at Special Sea and Anchor Detail, leaving Israel.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
I was on the pack because I was the Sea and Anchor pack.
Yeah.
And that was another thing too. I remember when they came on board ATG and it was like, who is this on pack? And it was like DC1. DC1. And that was like DC1.
You had no choice.
Right. We had no choice. Right. And so, but I remember we was on CN Anchor. I had my headphones on and I'm
Yeah.
sitting there and the CO comes over and he announces the names and he said the last name DCC Witherspoon. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait. And everybody on the mic is like down the OD box Coleman. She's like, congratulations, DC1. Everybody's like, hey, DC1. And CO's like, silence on the line. He's like, congratulations, Chief Select Witherspoon, and I'm like, oh shit. I'm like in my head, like, I didn't want to make Chief on sea duty. Like, no, not on deployment either. And all I could think about was I went back to when I was a seaman, DC3, going on that flight deck, seeing somebody, and I was just like, oh, this shit is crazy. Like, it's coming back around full circle, and this
Yeah.
is my time, right?
Yeah.
And you walked up to me, and you pulled my headphone back, and you said, that ass is mine. And then Nick and E came in there, and then they was like, muster all chief selects to the Chiefs mess. And I was like sitting there and I was like, oh, I can't go because I'm gonna watch. And E was like, I got it. It was like, I got it. I take it. I was like, damn.
Oh shit,
I was
man.
like, damn, I don't want to go in this fucking mess, man. Like, really? I was like, what the fuck's about to happen right now?
Oh man, that was funny.
And I was the only female too, man. I was like, shit. NC1, Nick was mad because he was like, NC1 had came down, but I didn't pick up on anything. But Nick was like, fucking NC1 almost gave it away coming in here. When when he started saying the results, that female NC1, she had came in there.
Yeah. NC1. Yeah, I gave shout out to Hale.
Yeah,
Beverly
hell.
Hale.
Yeah. Nick was like, damn, she almost gave it away coming down here.
So you make chief, selected for chief,
Yep.
go through, all that good stuff that we had for y'all through Chief Nation. You put the anchors on. Okay, now you basically, when you make chief, it's like, okay, I'm at this level now.
Right.
How did that make you feel?
Like I was ready. Like when I tell you, like when I made it, when I was under Mac, when I took over, right?
Yeah.
So and I had Mac a little bit before I even made chief, but having him there telling me like what he did, watching him, all the experience that I had starting out just from being a third class prepared me for that day. Like when I made it that time, I was like, oh, I'm fucking ready. Like I'm ready. Like I'm ready to do this. And the first thing in my head, once I put that uniform on, when I put my uniform on, those coveralls on that day to come in to the mess, I remember saying to myself, like, I'm gonna be the best DCC to a sailor that I've ever had in my whole career. That was my ultimate goal. I wanted my guys to be the smartest. I wanted them to know everything that they could know. And I felt ready. I felt like I was so ready to take on this role.
All right. So, all right, Mac McGregor leaves, you take over, and then eventually you would have to leave. You have to transfer off.
And the shit that pissed me off about that whole transition too was I called the detailer as soon as I made it. And I asked them, are y'all transferring me when I get back? Because I need to know. Like, don't transfer me from this ship. Like, y'all aren't transferring. They're like, no, we're not transferring. We don't have no orders. And then we go into the yards, and that's when you come in and was like, you got fucking orders. You leaving to go to the damn Mesa Verde. And I called the detailer. I was like, what is happening? Y'all said I wasn't going anywhere. And so when I get to the Mesa Verde, what happened was when I left the Fort Sherman, I get to the Mesa Verde, there was the DCA, there was the MP, it was a warrant officer that I taught at fire school. And I didn't know that I was going to the ship that had the MRG incident. They were still under that investigation. Remember where the DCA, that Chang and the top site, they all signed off and they found the rag in the MRG.
Yeah, yeah. I remember that.
That was the Mesa Verde. So when I
Oh,
got there, I was like, oh, this that damn ship. So everybody is like, so the MPA, everybody got fired. So
yeah.
they didn't have anybody. And so what happened is my GCA on the Mesa Verde was the acting MPA.
Okay.
And so when I get there, I'm like, I know you. I was like, I know you weren't off sea. He's like, yes. So what happened was he said, I requested you from the admiral. They asked me who would I need lead. And he was like, there's a DCC that's on the Forest Sherman.
Wow.
And he was like, and he requested me to come there. But let me tell you this shit there. When I got there, I was like, I left this ship where I had everything like ready for training cycle, for whatever going on. I get to the ship. He said, I'm going to let you know something. No. He said, I ain't worked on the repair part. I ain't work on a repair party manual. I don't have no rosters. I haven't done anything as a DCA on this ship. Nothing. Okay. They were doing, oh my God. When I tell you, when I got there, it was like stress on load. So not only, like even with the shit that happened on the Fort Sherman, I really never got to process that. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I didn't realize that I was going through PTSD stuff either with that.
Right.
And so when I got to that ship, it was like stress after stress after stress after stress. I remember us doing, before we was our pre-underways, this ship, they were doing halon checks where they were doing the actual check of the alarms, putting the 5-pound bottle, the one that we do where we put the 5-pound bottle to check the things.
Yeah.
And I had to show these guys, y'all are doing, this is not part of pre-underway checks. And so I had to go in there and I showed them on the maintenance card and show the DCA and the chain, that and the chain. So y'all doing shit that's going to accidentally, because y'all trying to rush and do all main spaces. And these guys were like, nobody ever told us that. I was like, oh my freaking God, what do you mean y'all didn't know? And not too long after I had just told them to stop doing these checks, one of them had accidentally lit off a halon bottle. And then they had to hump it up. And now this is a freaking amphib. So, and it was down on the bottom.
Oh, man.
So I was like, oh my God. And then my DC1 that I had at the time, I don't want to call his name, but I respected him. He could get those guys to work. He was such a good DC1. He would get those guys to work. And he came up to me when I first got to the ship. He said, Chief, I just want to let you know. He said, I just came off of recruiting duty. He said, I don't know nothing about SCAD. I don't know nothing about 3M. He said, but I can get these guys doing what they need to do. You just tell me what you want. And he was up for chief too. So this guy, he told me like straight up, he doesn't know anything about
more stress.
So not only
basically you the brainchild for the whole freaking division. Right now, you're the brainchild. Right. You got to build everything. Basically, this is a damn pre-com you got to build up.
Pretty much. And I got a whole crew and I got to watch everybody. And the ship is like way bigger than what I'm used to. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and I used to say this all the time when I was instructing. I used to say, I'm like Michael Jackson. I only do small boys. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man.
but when I got to that ship, I'm up here running, trying to go from forward to aft to watch these guys doing maintenance. So I'm the chief. I'm the works in the suit. I'm the LPO. I'm the DCA, going to the DCA office, getting the manuals. And then we end up having a fire. So I remember going to the CMC and I'm like, sir, I need you to get me off this ship. I was like, my husband is on, because at the time I got married after that too, and so he was on sea duty. And so when we were, the Chang at the time, because so much stuff was going on, the Chang at the time was not letting khakis leave the ship until 7:00 every day. We had to do it all engineer khaki call. And we all got assigned a main space. So I had an auxiliary space on top of my DC stuff. And I told him, sir, my husband is on sea duty. I have to get home to get my kids from daycare. So I was calling friends, hey, I need you to pick up my kids. Because at that time they had overnight CDC, but it's only for people that work shift jobs. Like shift.
My thing is, Now, usually they leave one spouse at sea and they
Exactly.
bring one to shore
Exactly.
duty.
So let me tell you where this come from. And this is where everything went downhill for me and why I end up
Keep going.
medically retired. Yeah.
Okay, go
But
ahead.
what happened is so I called the detail and I asked them, I told him, I said, you could put me on shore duty just until my husband gets off of sea duty. He doesn't have that long, and I would stay on sea duty for the rest of my career. I told him for the rest of my career, if you just take me off, just so we can get out of this phase. And they said, we can't do anything for you because the admiral put you there. The admiral, these aren't orders that like popped up and generated.
Yeah, yeah.
So we need you. And so the CMC, I told him about what had happened on the Fort Sherman. I told him about what was going on. I told him about like the stress, all this stuff. I was like, my kids, I got this, you know. And he was like, let me see what I can do. So he worked the way to get me orders. And this is where I went to the Lincoln. They moved me to the USS Lincoln because it's a ship, but it's in the yards.
So Mesa Verde, they took you off. Did they have another chief there?
No. So they didn't have another chief. And so
Man,
it was
they
another
probably
chief.
imploded.
It was another chief coming. But I'm gonna tell you how the things were going. Like I was like, I don't know.
So really,
I was
you
afraid.
so really from the Mesa Verde, from the Fort Sherman, you already had issues.
Yep.
So you didn't really take care of those
No.
issues. They were still embedded in you.
Yep.
You transferred to. I think you would have been better off if he had stayed on the
Stayed on the
Fort
Fort Sherman.
Sherman
Right.
because you had a real big support group there.
Right. Yeah.
But they took you from the support group you had, and
Right.
they took you on the Mesa Verde,
I knew
and
no
then
one.
I mean, basically, it's stress times 100 on there
Right.
because basically the DCA wasn't doing his job,
Nope.
so you had to do everything. So
Yep.
that led to more stress.
Right.
So then you got a husband that
Yeah.
also on sea duty.
Right.
They can't transfer you to shore duty because the admiral put you there.
Right.
So then, okay, we can transfer you from another high stress situation to a
Right.
freaking carrier that could possibly go up for 9 months.
And let me tell you, the carrier was in the HR, whatever they call it, in the yards, right?
Okay, yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, this is a carrier, so I'm about to get with a bunch of other DCCs. Daryl, when I got to the Lincoln, this was during the furlough, so I couldn't get my internet, my emails, because the employees weren't working, so I couldn't get email address, so I had to take emails at home. When I got there was a senior chief at DCCS. That motherfucker had checked out already. When I say checked out. So I asked him, I said, where the other DCCs at? He was like, it's just you and me. On a carrier, Daryl. On a carrier. Same shit. I get there and hold on one second. I'm sorry. I get there and I'm sorry there. So I get there and all of this is happening. And when I get there, same thing. My first class, she just came off of recruiting duty. She was like, I haven't worked in the rate. She was a DC one. Every time something would happen or something would go on, she would start crying. And I was like, look, I'm finna tell you something right now. I was like, I need you to fucking tighten up. I was like, every time shit hitting the fan, you up here fucking crying and shit. I was like, I got 2 kids. I mean, I would snap on her and I'd be like, I need you. I said, I hate to say this, man, the fuck up. I'm like, I'm trying to do this. I need you to help me. And so all my second classes, they doing maintenance. This second class is in charge of the Hayline shop. This one's in charge of AFFF. This one's in charge of repair lockers. So I get what all of them. I had my little notebook and I still have it. So from time to time, I got this little notebook. It was so much stuff, Daryl, that I had to write down.
You need like a command room.
Yeah.
To figure out what everybody is doing on this carrier each day.
And I would walk around with a book bag on because I didn't have a computer. So I didn't have computer access. So I had walked around with pretty much like a mobile office on my back with all the folders, with everything that I needed, writing, taking notes and everything. And again, I left one stress to come to here. My second class, I'm like, okay, So this is what we got to do. What is happening with this? What's happening with the systems? What's happening with, and my second classes are like, we don't know a lot about PMS. We're still learning. And I'm like, but you're a second class. Like, you've been in, how long you been in? They was like, oh, I only been in a year. And I'm like, wait. How you, wait. I was like, wait a minute, or a couple months. Some of them said a couple months. And I was like, how are you a second class? They was like, oh, they were giving us E5 out of boot camp, out of A school, if we sign up for 5 years.
Damn. What? That's like a nuke. That's like being a nuclear, they give you like E5 out of A school. What? They doing that for DC?
They were doing it for DC. So she told me she was just came in. I'm like, she was like, and I just got my works in a suit. I was like, so it's almost like you giving somebody the rank, but they don't got the knowledge. None of the knowledge. And I'm like, if this is where the Navy's going, we are freaking screwed.
That's that minimum man Navy. The minimum man Navy is destroying the Navy. It's destroying the Navy. And that's when I was like, God, I'm a CNC up in here painting. But yeah, continue. Yeah. So
I'm on the ship. My division officer is a warrant, not a warrant officer, he's a lieutenant, junior grade, black guy. I'll never forget this guy. And so I'm gonna tell you at this point, and it's crazy when you was talking about this, and this is why I was telling you it's a little personal, but I want people to hear this because I want you to know that I understand it. But at one point, I remember I was so tired. I was coming in, leaving late. I had to go to production meetings. We had to do a test of the port side of the fire main system. So I took the whole schematics of the ship home, typed up a whole plan on how we was going to test each section, and we did it. And when I did this and presented it, the guy at the shipyard was like, when you retire, he was like, you can come work for me. He was like, I've never seen, and that was illegal. I wasn't supposed to take those. I had the ones.
That's damn
because I didn't have a computer.
Classified.
I didn't have a computer at work, so I did it at home, and I did it. And at this point, that was when too, like me and my husband, he was like, you gonna go to bed? I'm like, I gotta do this shit. I gotta get ready for this meeting tomorrow, this production meeting. I gotta do this shit. And so, and then I'm snapping. I'm losing it. And I remember sometimes I would be driving to work and I'd be like, man, if I just shift my wheel a little bit just to make the car flip, like I want to go to go in a coma. I was like, I just need like 3 days of sleep. I started having those thoughts, Daryl. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? And then I would go to work and I would be walking because we were in the shipyards up in Hampton, right? Newport News. Yeah, Newport News. And so, and I remember driving to work and I would be crying when I'm driving to work. When I get to my car and I park, we had to walk like miles to get to the ship. I remember parking my car. As soon as I got out in my uniform, I put my cap on, wiped my tears, walked to the ship. I'm like, this. And then when shit would come up, somebody would come up to me like, DCC, this ain't done. DCC, that ain't done. I'd be like, okay, take it down. I got it. I would go in the fan room and I would sit there and I'd be like, how the fuck am I going to do all of this shit? How am I going to do all this shit? What the fuck is wrong with me? What the fuck? And I would be on the flight deck running, going, and I remember I would look over the flight deck and I was like, oh, if I fall, if I jump off the flight deck. Oh my
gosh.
I was like,
because we just went over one of the carriers, I can't remember, that was in the shipyards. They had like over the course of the 8 years, the Lincoln, they had like 9 suicides.
Yeah, it's the Lincoln.
And this what you hear you saying this. This is like
I was on the Lincoln. So one of the
that's right. You was on the freaking Lincoln. That's just like, oh my gosh.
And that's why. So I remember it was so much shit. And I was sitting there and I was just like, okay, if I jump over, oh no, I'm gonna die.
My
I
goodness.
can't die. And then I was at some point. So this is what happened. I went to the ship's medical and I went to talk to the lieutenant. It was a lieutenant commander. He was the ship's, like the doctor. And I told him, I said, come in the office. I pulled him in. I said, hey, doc, I'm having these thoughts of like hurting myself. I said, I'm a very optimistic person. I've always been positive. I said, but I'm having thoughts of like fucking I just want to sleep. I said, is there something you can do? Like, is there something you can do? Like, put me on limb do, and because I started telling him about this, and he was like, so what we can do, DCC, is you can come to my office. We can set up appointment. We can have like 30 minutes. And I'm like sitting there, and I'm like, oh, I'm like with my book. I'm like, I got a fucking production meeting on this day. I can't do that day. I can't do it. I was like, is there something you can do? Can you just like? I was like, can you just like give me like, can y'all put me on limb do for just a minute? I just need to breathe. I can't. And so he like, there's nothing. He was like, we can't do that. He was like, DCC. He was like, but if you just come up here from time to time and you talk to me when you need me. I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, please don't tell nobody. So my Divo comes up to me. Remember the lieutenant? I was Lieutenant JG. He comes up to me. He said, nobody think you gonna kill yourself. I was like, what are you talking about? He was like,
that's patient confidentiality that was just violated.
He was like, nobody think you gonna fucking kill yourself. And he was like, you a fucking chief. You need to get your shit together. He was like,
was he an LDO?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, standing there, and I remember sitting like, so definitely I didn't go back to that ship dock again. I didn't go say nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm like suffering in silence now at this point. And then one day this happened, and this is probably something that you don't know, or probably see, I don't know if you had retired at the time or not, but I remember one day it was an overload that day. I had a retirement, re-enlistment, one of my guys. We had a meeting that day. I was getting ready for that. The school had called, CDC had called and said, your daughter has like 100 and something fever. You got to come home and get her. Because my husband was on duty.
Yeah.
And I was like sitting there, and I was like, I can't believe I'm trying to debate on going to get my fucking child. And they called me back again because an hour had passed. I was like, I'm going to go finish this stuff first. And they called me back. They said, you got to come get your child. And I was like, okay, I'm coming. So I was leaving, and I was I was going to get my report to the Divo, and I was telling him, hey, this is what I got going on. He's at the typewriter, at the computer, and he's typing. And I'm telling him all this stuff because I'm like, I got to get out of here. I got to go get my daughter. He's like, and my third class is standing next to me. Is another second class in the office, in his office. And he's like, shut up. Don't talk until I fucking tell you to start talking. He was like, I didn't ask you for no damn report. You tell me when I tell you when I want to hear you. It was like that. It was like one of those, like, shut the fuck up. Don't talk to me right now. And I told him, I don't know who the fuck you talking to. And I threw the report down, and I went to the Chang's office, and I was like, I can't fucking do this no more. I was crying. At this point, I lost it. I was crying. I was like, I can't do this. I was like, I'm by myself. I'm doing this. I was like, senior chief. The senior chief was
he gone.
He just he would leave, he would leave, or he would just be like,
nobody say nothing to him, of course.
Yeah. And I was like, I can't do this shit. So I'm crying at this point, and I hate it. And I was like, I fucking hate this shit. I was like, because I don't like crying in the front of nobody. I was like, I'm tired of this shit. I had to do all this shit. And, I'm like, venting. He was like, Chief, he was like, go home. Go get your child. Go home. We'll talk about this later. And Daryl, when I went home that night, I grabbed my husband's gun, and I put it to my head.
Oh, my gosh.
And my mom was there visiting, and I remember saying, like, I can't do this no more. I need this job. I need this. I said, I got mortgage. I got stuff. I said, maybe if I kill myself, then my husband would get my SGLI. My kids would be set. Everything would be okay. They don't need me. Nobody needs me. And
oh my goodness.
My mom talked to me, and she was like, don't do this. And she called the police, and they came and they talked to me. And when I tell you they took me out the house, I was still in my uniform, Daryl, my chief uniform. I took that off, and I told them, I was like, it felt like my life had started over.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't feel like I deserved to wear the anchors anymore. I
Uh-huh.
didn't feel like when I was in the hospital, a lot of the corpsmen that was up there were some of my corpsmen that were my junior guys.
Uh-huh.
And they saw me I was in the hospital. They checked me into the hospital. I was in the hospital for like a week. It was like
Yeah.
right before Thanksgiving. And I remember when they came in, they would be like, Chief. And I was like, don't call me that. Please don't call me. I didn't even want nobody calling me a chief. I didn't even want nobody referring to me because I felt like I was just weak, like I was nobody because I wasn't strong enough to handle,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so while I was in the hospital, I told him I want to get out. I was like, I just want to get out. I don't want to do this no more. I can't do it no more. I'd have messed up my career. I can't believe I did this. I just felt like I destroyed myself, my credibility, everything because of having a breakdown and stuff.
Right.
And so when I talked to the doctors and everybody, they was telling me, especially about what happened on the ship, they were like, you're suffering from PTSD, postpartum depression, and you just went from extreme to extreme to extreme to extreme to extreme. And they were like, I'm surprised you made it this long. And then there was a DCC on board that came to the Lincoln after me. And when she saw me in the store one day, she saw me in the store when I got out of the hospital, and she said, Bree, because she knew me from fire school. And she was like, I don't know how you did that for as long as you did by yourself. She's like, I'm sorry what happened to you. And she's like, I heard, but she was like, I don't know how the fuck you did that shit for as long as you did, running that whole ship by yourself. She was like, and we lost a good one. She was like, we lost a good one. I wish you could have just held on. She was like, just a little bit longer until I got there. When she had came, and I told her, I was like, yeah, I just fucked up. I fucked up. And I was like, and I just felt like I couldn't go back. And so I was about to get out, and this the VA rep upstairs at the hospital, she was like, you're not finna just get out. She was like, you're at 14, almost 14 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
She was like, you just finna let that go? She's like, no. She was like, So she's told me about I can put in for medical retirement.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, and when they pull your record and we look at everything that's happened and all this other stuff, she was like, if you get over a certain percentage, you can medically retire to where your kids will still get their health insurance. You'll still get your benefits. You don't get your retirement check, but you get to retire and get your benefits, and you get benefits from the VA,
Right.
and the
Right.
military.
Right.
And so that was like the best advice. And like to this day now, I kind of regret it. Like I was like, man, I wish I would have toughed it out. But then I don't know where I would have been. Cause like I said, from that moment, I just I felt like my life like I couldn't remember the good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 The Navy failed you in multiple ways. First of all, just because, I understand the admiral gave you them orders there, but to have two spouses out at sea, who's gonna take care of the kids at
Right.
home? And that was a total failure right there.
Right.
And them back to back, I mean, you went from, a support system on
Yep.
a full show, you know, and then you had your issues there, of course, but you had a support system to going to the Mesa Verde where you had no support system at all. When you had,
Nope.
you know, basically it was you running that ship. It was you running that ship. And
Right.
then of course you went from the Mesa Verde to this carrier, that we talked about on one of our podcasts about, I mean, they had like 9 suicides on
Right.
board that carrier, which is just appalling, really. And it just shows how the Navy, I mean, that minimum manning, and you the only DCC on a carrier, but people
Yep.
don't realize a carrier is a dang city. You would have to have a command center of your own to find out where each of one of your people are working at on the
I wish
carrier.
you could have saw me there. I was running. Like I was running. And I look back now, and sometimes, and like I said, I still have my notebook from that ship. Like I have my little book that I have, and I was looking at like the date. So what I was doing, I was write the date on there, and I would write down little bullets of everything I had to do, what I had to do. And I was looking at my days. I'm like, damn, like, look at all this stuff. And my husband's like, why don't you throw that away? I was like, no, it's just a reminder to me. It's like a
Yeah,
reminder
yeah.
to me that like I can do this. And like you were saying, I've been in therapy. I've since I got out, I've been in therapy for this. And it's just and it's also that regret too, because I didn't get to fulfill my dream. I know I would have made Master Chief. I know I would have made whatever the highest I could have. And then the fact that I couldn't be there for other sailors to help them, because like that was the thing that Commander who was our commander on the Fort Sherman when that thing happened?
This Commander Bush, right?
Bush. He told
Yeah.
me, because I wanted to leave that ship. And the CMC, when the new CMC came on board, before I left and I did my out processing with him, like my sit down, he told me, he was like, they should have took you off the ship. He was like, they should have took you off the ship to let you like process or do something. Or he was like, they should have, he said, this command should have did more than what it did for you with that situation. But he was like, you know, Bush told me, he said, if you stay on board, he was like, you could be like a mentor, like an inspiration to women, to show to some of the females and anybody that goes through something like this, that you can keep going, push forward, and do
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
you do. And that's what drove me. That's what kept me going on all these ships. And that's where I also was like torn, because when I couldn't go to my sailor's retirement that day when I had to leave for my kid, he told me too, because they had got to know me too, the guys on there, and they were like, we've never had a chief like you that took care of us, that talked to us, told us what we needed to do. And so I love taking care of them. And it was almost like when I made that choice, I was like, I'm leaving behind that goal that I had to be, like I said, when I put on them anchors, I was like, man, I'm ready. Like I'm ready to be the
Yeah.
best, take care of my people. And I just felt like I left a lot of people behind.
Yeah. It was a couple of, and it's not your fault. It was failure upon failure, you know, how you went from these different situations. Seem like, man, you went to, Fort Sherman, Mesa Verde,
Lincoln.
each one a high stressful situation.
Yeah.
And
Different.
I can't believe somebody didn't say you can't have two people at sea duty. I
No.
can't believe they didn't realize that. That
No.
is insane.
Right. And that's what my CMC did. And I don't know how he was able to do it, but and he thought that, he was doing me a favor. I don't know if he like reached out and, saw that the Lincoln needed a chief, and he thought that that was going to be better for me because it's still a ship, but it's in the yards or whatever. But it was just, when I got there, I remember sitting down with the senior chief and I was like, all right, so who's the other chiefs here? And he was like,
Just you and me. I
it's
was
just
like,
you and me.
you, and I would think they'd have at least like 5 DCC, maybe even
Right.
more DCCs on there, but
Yeah.
just
No.
a senior chief on there waiting to retire. And somebody had to know, okay, this dude has already checked out. We need to get on the detailer
Right.
line and get us some more chiefs here to
Right.
handle this ship right
Yeah.
here. Because I'm sure, y'all own everything just like A game, pretty much from the forward end to the ship, the aft in the
Right.
ship. And
Right.
one chief is like, man, y'all
Right.
put a chief on overload. That's
Yeah.
impossible.
Right. And I just thought like to myself, like, okay, you gotta, like, this is what they
And
put
that
these.
Lieutenant JG, and that's why I want to get out the people out there. These people, this guy was an LDO and he
Yeah.
forgot where he came from.
Right.
He forgot where he came from, forgot about taking care of people, looking out for people,
Right.
And he just went off the rails and he shouldn't
Right.
even be in the Navy.
Right.
That
And that
dude
was
right
and
there.
that was and I think that was the other thing why the command made it so easy for me to leave. Like they sent everything so quick because, I told them about how I told the officer what I was feeling, and he went back and told my divo. He went and told my divo what I was saying. And for him to say that to me, I was like,
Yeah, that's patient, that's doctor patient
right.
confidentiality, which
Yeah.
he
So that's
broke.
why, like, when I see those stories on the Lincoln, because I follow the news, I even was looking at um what's his name, ITC, Ponciado
Yeah, yeah,
Amari,
yeah, yeah.
you know, with him not knowing that he was suffering from PTSD as well from being on the cold.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I was just like, yeah, man, it was a lot of stuff. You know, when I was on the Fort Sherman too, the thing that you may not have known either. Sometimes I would sleep in the office where the cipher lock was because I didn't want to sleep in the rack because I would hear like this noise,
yeah,
like I thought
yeah,
somebody was opening my curtains, and it's one of those things. And with that situation on board there, it hurt me even dearly because with the Fort Sherman that I dealt with inside, and I kind of like that's why I got involved with like the Black History people. I got involved with the sailors when they was doing the CSAD, all that stuff
yeah,
because I
yeah.
had asked Dee, like I asked Dee, can I have a collateral? And she was like, I don't have nothing for you right now. And I was like, because I needed something to keep
Mm-hmm.
me occupied. But sometimes I wouldn't sleep in my berth and I would sleep in the office on the floor. And I didn't realize that I was, suffering that. And then, the day that I came into the mess, you or Nick or E wasn't in there yet, but the dude that was I forget, he had left, he had that big mustache or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, 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 yeah.
When I walked in the mess that first morning after picking up, when we changed and when we came in for breakfast, he said to me, "Who in here smells like a French whore?" He was not to me, but he said it out loud,
Mm-hmm.
and I was the only one in there, and I was just like this motherfucker. And that's why, like, when I just got this little, like, this real hardness about me to where, and then you know how like they weren't responding to my emails, and you had to cuss everybody out in the Chiefs mess for me too, because they
Yeah,
weren't
yeah,
responding to my emails and
yeah.
doing stuff.
You
And
know what? You know what,
even
Bree?
Mac,
It was like
even Mac, and
it
Mac
was
had
like
to
it was
Mac had to say something too.
yeah, it was that he was everybody's boy. He was that he was you was new
Yep.
coming outside coming in, and he was
And
everybody's
that's
boy.
why it was
He
hard.
was my boy.
Yeah.
That was my dude. That I was like, okay, you do this, you go be senior chief. All you gotta do is go to the store and buy your anchors. And then I got to know you. And I was like, man, she's straight, man. She good people, and he shouldn't have done that. He was stupid. And but yeah, man, that's what they was doing. They was basically blackballing you. And then I
Yeah.
was like, I got to
Right.
know you, and I was like, y'all need to
Right.
answer them damn emails, or it's gonna be some shit up in here. All
Right.
right.
And that's why, like, even for me, it was harder with that situation because I was new to everybody. I
Yeah.
couldn't go, I didn't have the first classes to go to because I didn't really know a lot of the first classes except for like King, not King, what's his name?
Roche,
The Roche, the engineer, the black, what's his name? God, I can't think of his name. We were
Lieutenant
hanging out.
Schuler.
Huh?
You talk
He was
about?
an Ian, the black guy.
Oh, that's Israel.
Israel. Me and
Yeah.
Israel was hanging out, stuff like that. But still, when I picked up chief, they separated me from everybody. I wasn't a chief yet, and I wasn't a first class anymore. You
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
like when I was on, and then the fact that after that crap happened, for the CO to have captain's call and announce it to everybody on the ship, it wasn't a secret, and that was the thing too, when like as soon as that happened, we had all hands call on the flight deck.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like, and everybody looked back at me, and they were like, I'm the only female in a berthing by myself that somebody can come into.
Yeah.
And then the simple fact that like I said, when that happened, my DC-1 Bloomberg, he came up to me, and he was crying, like in tears, because he told me, I never told you guys this, but he came up to me and he told me, he said, Chief, he's like, I'm sorry, man. He was like, I'm so sorry. He said, because he came up to ER09 to the filter cleaning shop that night, and he asked for me, where's Chief Select Witherspoon at? Where's Chief Select Witherspoon? And Blumberg said he told him, like, I don't know, Chief. I think she in her rack sleep. Like, she probably in birthing. And he was like, and he was like, I didn't think that he would come down there to your birthing, and Blumberg, they said that to me. He was like, we were in the filter cleaning shop, and he came look, like he was on a proud, like it wasn't like a stumble. He
Yeah.
was looking for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then, like I said, it was horrible for me because he was like my mentor. Me and him still watch. He was your UI for tops for EAL,
Yeah.
and me and
Yeah.
him used to talk on watch. So I was put in a position too where all that training that we do in the Navy about stuff like that, when you're in that situation, it sucks because the first thing I thought about was his wife and his kids.
Yeah.
I went through all these mixed emotions. I was like, I didn't want to. I was like, oh my God, I got him in trouble. He's gonna lose his rank. He's gonna lose this, or his wife and kids. What are they gonna do? I started thinking about him,
Yeah.
and then I wasn't even thinking about myself. And then how Dee Dee handled it. She said nobody talked to her. And I remember you, Daryl, and E came down, and you were like, Dee Dee was like, don't talk to you, like leave you alone. You was like, I said, fuck that. I'm not like she by herself. Like we're gonna just leave her alone. Like no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you came
Well.
down there and checked on me, and you were like, "Hey, we just want to see if you're okay." And I was just like, "No, I'm not." Like that was supposed to be my moment, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
all them years working hard, looking up to the mess, that was supposed to be my moment. And the same person that gave us training in the mess on if a chief does something wrong, what are you supposed to do? And I remember what was his name? One of the other selectees, he said, handling it in the mess. And he was like, no, you're supposed to report it. He was like, everybody is held to the same. He was like, no, 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 that's not what we're supposed to do. And then for me to come down, or for that to happen to me, and people say I shouldn't have said anything, or I shouldn't, it's like, you don't understand what that felt like. Like, nobody understands what that situation was. It was scary as shit. I had
Yeah.
never had
Yeah.
anything like that happen to me. And I've been on so many ships, so many deployments, and never had I had anybody ever do that to me.
And we really didn't understand at that time because this is our guy right here, right? This is our
Right?
guy. This is our guy. He gonna make senior chief. He's gonna be the man here. He's gonna be my number one chief. And nobody really, look at that. And then we was alienating you a little bit, alienating you. And then it came to the point was like, you know what, man? I started talking with you, and I was like, she good people, man. She good people, and we don't need to do this. You don't need to do this to her because that'd be wrong. It was wrong. And but yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah, and I'm surprised they didn't fly you out of there. Usually that's what they do. They
Right.
get rid of the perpetrator, and then
Right.
you go to another ship for a fresh start. But
Yeah,
yeah, that and that.
I had asked Commander Bush if he would take me. I said, send me to that one ship that we went to that had no selectees. I was like, send me to that ship. I was like, send me somewhere. Just send me away. I was like, please, just take me off this ship. I said, it's not gonna work. It just didn't feel right. It was like I was already trying to establish myself. I was already trying to establish myself in there. And then this happens. And it was like, fuck my life. Like,
Wow. And
you know?
man, oh man, and that's the thing, man. How things just develop and they fester if you don't take care of them at that certain time. And then you go to that other
Right.
situation at the Mesa
And so yeah,
Verde, and then
and
you
that's
go to the
my
carrier.
advice to anybody is like you have to recognize it. And when I look back and when I started talking about it, and I was telling them, I was like, man, I was like thinking this stuff and I never thought. And then when I went to the hospital after I got checked in the hospital, I learned from that moment. And that's for anybody that's going through anything too, that's still in, that you can always self-refer. I never knew that. I thought that I had to get the doc on the ship to give me a referral to the hospital.
Yeah.
Told me you could have walked in here one day, said this, and that's what it was. And I was like, I never knew I could do that. But also I explained to them I didn't know what I was going through either.
Hmm.
I didn't know what I was feeling, but I just knew that I wasn't optimistic anymore. I wasn't positive. I was just losing myself. And I felt like I was like this angry person. And it was just work, 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 work. And my kids, I mean, my kids were not seeing me either. My daughter, she was say the same, like she would be like, if she saw me in my uniform, are you coming home? Because sometimes I wouldn't come home.
Wow.
Sometimes I wasn't able to come home just to work because I had to work all night. And then I would just be like, I'm so tired. I'm just going to go get in my rack. I'm just going to go sleep at the bar or just somewhere. I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Man. Well, for all of you out there, that are in high stress situations, the minimum man in the Navy is not helping. And don't let the problem fester, just like Chief Bree said, don't let the problem fester. Go ahead, self-refer yourself. Self-refer yourself and get the help you need. Don't let anybody say, "Oh, toughen up." You
Right,
still got some old salty dogs out there that probably throw their mom to the wolves and go out to
right,
sea or
right,
whatever.
right.
You know, and
Yeah.
just stuff. That Lieutenant JG. Oh my gosh, he was an enlisted dude, enlisted, and he forgot. He basically forgot about Karen, about
Yeah.
sailors. He
Yeah.
made it to that position, and just
Yeah.
like Art Minks was like, I made Chief Warrant Officer so I can help my
Yeah.
enlisted people on the broader
And
scale,
then
and that he
because
forgot that.
the thing about it, when I met him too, I was like, oh shoot, this is, again, he was an African American guy, not old. And I was like, looked up to him when I first met him. I was like, this is somebody that, came from where I was at.
Yeah,
And so it's just
it's
it
mind-boggling when he came up to you and he said, "Nobody gonna, you know,
nobody gonna believe that. And
gonna
it was
believe
like
it."
at that point, it almost felt like a dare. Like I felt like I have to do something to get people to see that something's wrong with me. That's what it felt like. When he said that, I was like, I can't just talk about this no more. I have to do something about it. I have to show them that I'm hurting, like in some kind of way.
So, Bree, so when did you get to the point you finally got to the point where you decided not to stay in the Navy?
Right. And they kept me at the hospital for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they were giving me a while. I was on limited duty. And they was giving me a while. And then they was like, we don't want you to make a rash decision what you want to do. And then, like I said, when I was getting close to um going up for orders, I think that's when like anxiety was hit me. And I
Mm-hmm.
just was like, like everything that happened to me, like from boot camp on, even when I had my pregnancy tours, I knew what I was going to do. I was ready to get back in. You know what I mean? I was
Mm-hmm.
like, from getting pregnant in Japan and coming here, I was at Marmac, so I was learning my craft. From the fire school to the hospital, I was there learning, getting ready to go back to the ship, going to the 3MC school. But from that point, I had never been in that type of situation, Daryl. And I think
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know, how do I start back over? Like, how do I go in and tell my sailors that we got to get through this? I need y'all to work. I need y'all to do this when I just had this breakdown. That's where I was looking at it, my
Yeah.
mentality. Like I was like, I can't be a chief no more. I can't lead nobody because I felt weak. I felt like I wasn't strong enough anymore to lead people. Gosh.
Hey, take your time.
Yeah, and to, I guess, to show them how to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
Because like for me, joining the military, getting to where I was, I overcame how I grew up, my
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle growing up.
Yeah.
And then I built this life for me in the military, and it just flipped in a day. Like it started shifting, and I was just like, what is happening? Like I didn't know what to do. And then and like I said, in the end, I just felt like, how am I gonna tell my sailor, I need you to do this when I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so from
Mm.
that point on, I went through the process, and I got retired and medically retired. And I actually started working. So I was one of my Master Chiefs, Adrian Bachelor. He was stationed with me at the fire school, and he retired, and he was working at Mid Atlantic Maritime Academy in Norfolk,
Hmm.
Virginia. And he heard about what was going on with me, and then I was telling him the story and such, and he was like, "Well, I'm in charge of engineering department here at the academy, and it's for merchant marines." So he was like, "You want to come here and teach?" And so I started working there with him, and I started teaching at engineering. So I was teaching like diesel, steam, all this other stuff, and helping create curriculum data, and that's what I did um, when I first got out. And so that was it. And I was just staying in Virginia.
Okay, what are you doing now?
So now I am currently a stay-at-home mom too, because my husband, he just retired in April.
Hmm.
He works at, I was working like so I was telling you earlier, I had two more kids after that. One of my first child that I had after um we moved to Chicago with my husband, my new husband. I got a divorce and got married again. He
Yeah.
got orders to Chicago, and when I had my daughter, we found out that she had a rare trisomy condition,
Right.
mosaic
Hmm.
14. So I became a stay at home mom. I was working for TSC up in Great Lakes. I resigned there, stayed at home. When she started being able to go to school, when we moved here to Florida,
Hmm.
um, I started doing like part time job, like little cashiers
Yeah. Yeah.
things or something.
Yeah.
And but her appointments, and with my husband working full time now, he's retired, but he works at the um Jack's Port Authority, so those big blue cranes or whatever for the
Yeah.
cargo.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
So he works there, and his hours is just hard.
Yeah.
It
Longshoreman. He's a longshoreman, right?
yeah. No, he's an electrician.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
But
he
yeah.
so with that, it's hard. Like when you were talking about the guy that's stay at home dad, it's hard. Like I don't know, I don't get it. Like it's really hard when you have multiple kids, and then we have appointments, and you're trying to work, and you're trying to juggle the kids and everything else.
Yeah.
So
You need
with
somebody at
us right
home.
now, with both of us being retired, with him working a full-time job, we have enough. Like to take
Yeah.
care
Oh
of us.
my
So like right
goodness.
now, I'm just taking classes for school. I'm working on my bachelor's degree,
Awesome.
because I do, with my daughter being special needs, I did want to work in nursing. I started thinking about that, but now I'm working on healthcare business management.
Right.
So I want to help, like be like a social worker, or help people in the medical field,
Hmm.
because this insurance thing is funny when it comes to kids with disabilities. And
Yeah.
so I tell you, since I've had her, I've had the best like care team and people to help us. So now, I've been getting like offers because of how I care for her and how I take care of her from her
Yeah.
doctors. Like, whenever you do this, we want you to come work in our office, and do this and do that. So at some point, I'm hoping to be able to go do a career job that I can finish or do. But as of right now, it's just hard. As you can see, like my daughter, medical supplies, everything. I mean, I'm always at appointments and therapies for her and stuff like that. But just raising these kids, that's what
I
I'm
hear
doing.
you. Oh my goodness. So,
Right.
Brianna, um, right now, what I want you to do is you got the floor is yours. Anybody you want to shout out, any shipmates you want to shout out.
So not by name, but again, everybody from my first ship on up, man. I'm telling you, like I appreciate you. I thank you for everything, every advice, even the run-ins, the people that didn't like me or didn't care for me, or the ones that I got on their nerves. I appreciate them. And like I said, it was a rough time for me after I made chief, but I know that I wouldn't be where I was or how I was if it wasn't for all the people that I encountered. And again, like I said, for you, Daryl, I really appreciate you, Nick and E, man. Y'all really got me through. It was hard leaving you guys. That was like my crew and my support team. But other than that, I mean, I love the Navy. I love what I did. I love the sailors. I love taking care of people, and I love being the shit. You know, like, just one of those things. I love to do it.
Well, you
So
know,
thank you,
no,
and
no, no,
thanks for
no.
thinking
Thank
of
you,
me.
thank you. Well, being part of a team, a great team on board the Forest Sherman, and let me tell you something. You made it. You made it. You still here. You strong, and you still keeping on. And that's the best. And when you told me that story, man, oh man, I just wanted what I really would have thought about. I was like, man, I wish I had my damn khakis on. I would have got Corey or Matthew, Corey
Right?
or
Yeah,
Mac
man.
McGregor. I would have went
I
on
know.
there with that dang I would have took Mason with me, and we'd have
Right.
came on that ship, and I'd be like,
I
"What
know.
the hell going on here?
Right.
What the hell is going on here? Somebody need to do some shit. What's going on around here? That
Right.
made me so mad when you told me that, and I felt so, you know, such a promising chief that was on a trajectory. The sky was the limit for you, and just these back to back circumstances, and the Navy failed you also. Two people, two people that are married out at sea is a no-no, and they knew that should have never happened. That should have really never happened, and it really wasn't your fault. You needed time to decompress, you know and to get back to who you really was. And you know thank goodness, you're here with us.
Right.
And
Yeah, because the whole thing, I don't know. I'm gonna tune in for the South Frank thing. When I heard about that, man, I was so heartbroken, because he was one of my guys that came on board when I made chief. And so when I heard about his story, I was just like, man. And again, just like you said, I look at some people aren't here. They didn't.
yeah. Yeah, and that's what we're gonna go over. You affect people, the people that you're directly involved with
Right.
when you do that, and
Right.
indirectly that you just pass by in the P-way and they know
Yeah.
you
Just
hurt
say
people.
hey. Yeah.
Yeah, just
And
say hey
and
to.
that was the one thing about me that anybody can say is it doesn't matter when it comes down to whatever's said or whatever's done. I'm still gonna take care of my guys. I'm still gonna take care of them no matter what. They could cuss me out. And Roche King and all of them, they'll tell you, like Bloomberg, I told them, I said, you guys, if you need to vent to me or you need to come out and say anything to me, I used to tell them, we go in my office. You can call me bitch, whatever, cuss me out, do whatever you want. Get that shit out. I used to tell them, get that shit out. You want to do that, you do that here. But we're not doing that in front of the junior
Yeah,
guys.
yeah,
We're not
yeah.
doing that in front of the junior guys because at the end of the day, they still learning. We don't
Hmm.
want to taint their impression on stuff, and then we need to be on the same page. But you tell me how you feel and don't feel like you can't tell me anything. And I think that was one of the things with the guys that I would tell them. If I'm telling you something, I'm not telling you something that I didn't ask for or that I
Hmm.
didn't try. I'm telling you something that I have no control of that we just got to get done. And if you just follow me with this and get it done, that's all. I'll take care of anything else that you need. But I always gave them a space to feel like they could, that I'm always going to be there. It's almost like with your kids. You
Gave the
like, no matter
space
how
so they
many
can flourish,
right,
be
right. No
successful.
matter no matter what mistakes you make or whatever happens, I'm still going to always be there to help guide you and get you where you need to be at. I never wanted anybody to leave and I would tell people if the military is not for you, take advantage of it while you're there. Take as much as
Yeah,
you can,
yeah,
get as much as you can, and then get out. But don't be in here getting in trouble, letting them cut your pay, taking stuff away from you.
yeah.
Why? Then they just getting over on you. It's nothing that's helping. So I would always tell them, the Navy gonna take 4 or 5 years out of your life. You take as much as you can, not just walk away with a brand new car. Oh, I got this nice
Yeah,
car.
a brand new car that could break down in 50
Right.
years. You
Yeah.
got to
You
pay
walk
on
out
it.
with
Yeah,
money, walk out with money saved in your pocket.
education, money
Yeah, with the education.
saved.
that what's his name? Mulligatto?
Mulligatto, yeah, Mulligatto,
Yeah.
yeah.
He
Oh
was
yeah.
working on his masters. He was on his
You know,
masters.
he a top guy at Newport
Yeah.
News Shipbuilding. He
Yeah.
big dude out there.
Right.
Mulligatto, yeah,
Yeah.
man. I used to
He
always
did
see him
his
over there.
5 years. He was like, I'm getting out. He's like, I'm not staying in here. He was like, I'm
Yeah.
getting out. I just get
And
another paper.
he did his job. He did his job, what
did.
he's supposed to do,
He
took his
did.
orders, was a model sailor, got out, and he's successful. That's
Right.
that's what it's all about. If you don't want to
That's
make it
what
a
it is.
career, that's what it's
Right.
all about.
You know,
You know?
and no matter what happened to Daryl too, I always tell people, and that's why I went so hard for the Navy too, is because I looked at the Navy like this. It gave me everything that I have, even this foundation now for my kids.
Yeah.
That, you know, if I didn't join, if I didn't join, my daughter wouldn't even be able to get this chapter 33, you know, with college tuition, you know, like
Yeah.
different stuff. So it was one of those things for me that, yes, they failed me, but I always appreciated the opportunity that it gave me from where I came from, this small town in Albany, Georgia, to a girl living in Japan, having my own apartment and house, and then getting to travel and see the world. You know, who can actually do that?
Breanna, Witherspoon, Garner, we got to give her a hand for that story. That's an awesome story of overcoming and continuing on and being an inspiration to us all. All right. I'm running short on time. Yeah, Miss Garner. Hey,
Thank
I appreciate your story and you sharing that story with us. That's a very powerful story. We're gonna continue on next week when we do the little memorial. We do the memorial for HD1 Salberg. But
yeah.
hey, we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Enjoy the
Dee.
rest of your day.
You too.
And it's been great talking with you.
All right, go dogs.
For yous out there, for everybody out there. Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, X, and TikTok. And again, this is Snipes Castle, the U.S. Navy Sailors Podcast. I'm Senior Chief D. LaMonica. I'm out of here to enjoy the weekend. Again, thank you there, Miss Garner.
All right.
Tell everybody there I said hello.
All right, Carol.
Bye-bye. Have a good one, all right?
All right.
Hard work,
Hard work, that's what they say.
hard work,
Hard work, I earn my pay.
hard work.
Hard work, do it every day.
All right.